Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a bonus segment of the Brothers Take. I think this might be the first bonus segment of 2021. I think everything else has been episode folk. I can't remember the last time we did a bonus. I think it was before Christmas.
Did we not do a bonus?
We did a few in the lead up to like the PS5 and things, but I don't think we've done one since the new year. I think this could be our first one. Because we always wait for something else of inspiration or something that's outside of a full episode.
What about our reactions to...
Oh, we did do... Okay.
Does that not count?
So there was no audio version of that, but we did do on YouTube a reaction to the latest trailer for the Snyder Cut, which is a great segue to lead us into what we're talking about right now, which is that in the lead up to the Snyder Cut, which we're all very, very, very excited for, we're going to look back on the DC movies that have kind of led up to that particular movie, which is the Zack Snyder DC trilogy. Starting with, in this bonus segment, our take on 2013's Man of Steel. So, it's not going to be an overly long episode or anything like that. It's outside of our video games discussions. We're also movie fans, music fans, and fans of pop culture in general. And this is just something that we're particularly interested in. I have a feeling with how long the Snyder Cut is, by the time that comes around, that actually might get a full episode. But in the lead up to it, we wanted to do some bonus talking.
Man, that's like 4 episodes. Like an
it could
episode
be,
per hour.
4 hours long. Like, I don't know how you could condense that in something that then you could say, yeah, that's a bonus. Like, it's not, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe when we watch it, we'll have nothing to say about it. I don't know. Like, hopefully we will. I think we will. But if you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love you to jump down into the comments. Let us know what you thought of Man of Steel, if you've seen it, and also how you're feeling about the Snyder Cut if you're looking forward to it. What do you hope to see in the Snyder Cut when it finally launches? If you're listening to the audio platforms, you could touch base with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take. Again, to give us your take on Man of Steel and Zack Snyder's DC trilogy at this point. Also, if you enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and click that notification bell on YouTube so that you know when we put out future bonus segments, because these don't happen all the time. These are not weekly. These are when we're inspired to do so, or when there's something that is not gaming related that we just feel like we want to talk about. So without further ado, let's talk Man of Steel. It's Misha, Superman. Did you guys see this in cinema when it first came out?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
You what?
Yeah.
You did?
I definitely did. I did.
Yeah, I did.
And I remember I remember the first teaser was shown. I went to see The Dark Knight Rises it was the first time I'd ever seen an IMAX screen. I went to see it on an IMAX screen up in Dublin. I traveled up for it because I was like, this is the biggest movie event of the year for me, right? Mm-hmm. And before that is when they showed the teaser for Man of Steel, which was when it just kind of showed the little kid Clark Kent with the red towel on his back, and it played the music from the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, after Gandalf falls. That's the music they played. And I was like, oh my god, if this is the tone of this movie, I'm going to fucking...
100% in.
Right? So before we even talk about how we found Man of Steel, what would be like your take on Superman in general?
Well, I think I was in the same boat as a lot of people growing up. Superman's lame. He could just do everything. He's not cool. You know what I mean? Like, he only has like Lex Luthor as like his only villain, because obviously I was ignorant on Superman as a character and his vast roster of villains. Fantastic villains, actually. So yeah, I would have been like, Superman is super lame. He's not Batman. Batman cool. Batman forever. Batman for life. I think then we got we got a bunch of like sticker books. Do you remember this, Chris? Don't know if Adam, you were
I
that
remember
much
the
involved.
sticker books. I
Actually,
didn't.
no,
I
Adam,
was,
you
I
were.
wasn't
You
involved
were.
in your weird shenanigans.
You guys collect stickers, you nerds.
No, actually, I think Adam was, because Adam was the one who had to place the stickers for us, because me and Chris couldn't do anything. It's like Lego. Adam had to build the Lego for us.
Yeah, and Warhammer and
Yeah.
everything at all. It's like,
but
Adam,
it was
how
like-
does this thing work?
It was one on like Superman, and like I think that's when we were introduced to the likes of Darkseid and Doomsday and Mr. Mixublick, whatever his fucking name is.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's cool. That's interesting that he has more villains than Lex Luthor. And then Man of Steel, Superman Returns was the first Superman film I actually watched from beginning to end in cinema with
Yes,
Brandon.
Really?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
I've
yeah.
still not seen that.
I've seen that. I haven't.
It's I even as a child I was still like, that's incorrect. He should not be able to lift an island made of kryptonite.
Right.
Like he
Yeah,
does
it's a
that.
weird sequence.
Yeah, and that film was heavily criticized for not taking risks and being too safe with all of its choices.
Right.
And then we get Man of Steel.
Right.
I loved Man of Steel. I did. I really loved. I loved the opening. I loved the tone. Obviously, it's Hans Zimmer doing the soundtrack, so it's amazing. The costume design, the villains and the villain design is cool. And that film was scrutinized and critiqued for taking risks and being bold.
Right.
But yeah, no, this Superman and Zack Snyder opened my eyes to a different Superman, and from then, from the Man of Steel onwards, we started to get, I think, different products of showcasing Superman as more than just that Boy Scout, I'm a big fan of justice, cheesy one-liners,
Right.
and like delving more now into the actual character of Superman, which is 100 times more interesting than his powers and where he comes from. Is this outsider character having to do the right thing, even though it will it's super, like we were discussing this. It's super hard to talk about Man of Steel without slightly going on the BBS.
I know because his character thread
he's only established in this.
is continued in BVS,
Yeah.
and yes, it's like some of the themes now when you're looking back, because if you watch Man of Steel after watching BVS, now you're looking at Man of Steel with another lens. You're now looking at it through the lens of some of the stuff that's brought up and more prominently, I think, in BVS. But we will get to BVS as another bonus before Justice League is launched, to give our take on that. It'll be the Ultimate Edition, though.
Right.
It's like if you're talking Return of the King, you're talking extended cut. So, Adam, your general take on Superman up until before you saw Man of Steel?
Same. I never ever liked Superman, and because because of the Christopher Reeve version, actually.
Okay.
That version of Superman, although adored, there was just something about it where it's like, he beats up people and smiles while doing it. He's a bully. Like, this guy has all the power in the world to like absolutely like just easily snap a dude's neck, and here he is like messing with a guy in a diner and stuff like that. It's just, there was something about it that just didn't sit right with me as a character. So I never ever delved into the source material, which is the comics and even the cartoons. Yeah. I was put off of Superman because of the films that came before Man of Steel. So Man of Steel made me like kind of go, oh my god, like there's more to this character than I ever thought. Right. There's a deeper level of humanity in this character. There's philosophical kind of underpinnings as to how we would perceive such a character if they ever existed in our world. That's really interesting. Yeah. When it comes to movies and stuff, like the kind of films I love have like those type of deeper philosophical religious underpinnings, whether it's like The Matrix or Blade Runner, Prometheus. Those type of films have like much deeper levels than just what's being presented to you, and I love that kind of shit. So this really, I started paying attention to Superman as a character after seeing this. I had a sense that the makers of this loved this character
Yeah.
I wanted to show us a version we've never seen before.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're all in a similar boat. I hated Superman growing up. Hated him. He was. If people were to ask me like who's the worst superhero, even though he's like the
Poster boy for superheroes.
poster boy for superheroes, really.
Yeah.
Like if you were told, oh, design a superhero, you've got 60 seconds to do so. You're like, you would pretty much draw Superman. You draw a cape and you draw an icon on the chest, and then people would know it's a superhero.
Yeah.
But I hated him. And the reason I hated him was because for me, all the greatest stories were about a hero overcoming impossible odds and coming out stronger at the end. That was always like the hero's arc, whether it's Batman trying to eradicate all of crime in Gotham, this impossible thing to do. Frodo trying to destroy the ring. Luke Skywalker trying to take on the Empire. Like, it was always about the villain had to be stronger and bigger. And in a similar way, my ignorance or my knowledge of Superman was that his villain was Lex Luthor, who I also now appreciate more, now that I know more about the character anyway. But at the time, it's like, okay, so this guy, Superman, can't be hurt only for this very, very rare mineral, and can do anything and everything, and is all good and great and powerful, and nothing bothers him, and nothing can beat him. And it's like bank robbers can't do shit to this guy. Like, how is this a compelling story? I'm not worried about whether he'll succeed. I'm not in any way invested in whether it's like, oh fuck, Superman might die. It's like, he can do anything. He can't die. He can turn back time if he flies fast enough. This is ridiculous, right? So growing up, I hated Superman because and actually my favorite superhero growing up was Spider-Man. Before I got really into Batman, who was similar to Superman. It's a very similar story, and he's similar in terms of like that kind of tale of with great power comes great responsibility, and that's the only reason he's doing this. He's not trying to avenge anything. He's not trying to like undo some great injustice that was done to him, because like Superman's world is long gone. He's not trying to save Krypton or anything like that. It's just that I can save people, so I should.
Yeah.
But with Spider-Man, he's far more vulnerable. I knew way more of his villains from the cartoons. They could kick his ass. It was like Spider-Man could lose. So now I'm like rooting for him. And I didn't have that with Superman. And then Man of Steel absolutely wiped the like floor clean with like it just totally changed my outlook on Superman. It actually did something similar to what the Winter Soldier did for me. I always compare. Yeah, I know people. Right, so people hold the Winter Soldier up quite highly, and I know a lot of people don't like Man of Steel. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't like it. Mm-hmm. I think those two movies are very similar. They take a character that's typically a Boy Scout, and like again, when I was younger, I hated Captain America. He was literally like my least favorite Marvel superhero that I was aware of. Like, I hated him. And if you were to ask me who my favorite hero in the MCU is, I'm going to tell you it's Captain America. Which I never would have said if not for the Winter Soldier and Civil War and what happened beyond that, right? Mm-hmm. They just took a character that, like, and I think what happened there, like, for example, with Captain America, the Russos even said they don't like Captain America. How can we make this guy likable? And then they made a fucking incredible movie and did that. Zack Snyder actually did like Superman. But he liked him for reasons that I think other people weren't bringing up. Or people were bringing up, but it wasn't, like, out there in, like, the public eye, like, in my eye. Where I'm just like, oh, he's so lame, he can do anything. And it's like, hold on. I'm going to show you why we like him, though. I'm going to show you, like, what the comic book writers have been writing about that you haven't been reading. And I'm going to show you what, like, the cartoon movies and the cartoon series have been doing that you haven't been watching. And I'm going to show you, like, the questions that we have in debates about, you know, what does it mean to be Superman that you haven't had because you've written him off as just a silly character. And then
I think that's a really important point as well, is that it's like Man of Steel is a version of Superman, as is every other version of Superman that's out there, based on stories from the comics that you likely probably didn't read. And I think that is a really important point. Everyone has an idea of what Superman is, and unfortunately it's the Reeves version.
Right.
Which is probably one of the most least accurate comic depictions of a character in a film.
I don't know if that's true.
Like, well, I mean, you just said the whole thing about him fucking flying around the world to turn back time. That's not an ability that Superman can fucking do. It's not one of his things.
I'm pretty sure that is in the comics.
I think he can. No, I think he can do that.
But I think when he did that, it was in the comics at a time when superheroes were written off as being these childish, almost like
campy era, right?
Yeah, it was a time when superheroes were superheroes. You got the wham, the boo, pap.
Yeah. I mean,
Adam West and all that sort of stuff, like everything.
It is the equivalent of looking at Batman saying, "Oh, well, this isn't
Adam West.
This is the Adam West Batman."
Right,
it's like
right.
that era of Superman is like, yes, it's the Adam West era of superheroes. I mean, not that it's Richard Donner was the director, was it? It's not that he wasn't touching on really. Like, he introduced a lot of things. Like, I'm not 100% sure about that time travel thing, which came first. That's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. I think it was in the movie. I think it was in the movie first, before it was introduced to the material. But he did introduce things that ended up becoming canon for Superman.
Right.
That means it wasn't comic accurate at the time.
No, but I think Christopher Reeve's performance was. I just think.
Oh, yeah. I just mean that the way the director portrayed the character, it's not necessarily comic accurate.
Right. Yeah.
As much as the way Zack handled Superman and Man of Steel, I think he drew more from the source material than what would have been the Reeves version. I think there was probably a lot more creative freedom with that too. And it's not like, I mean, obviously that became the blueprint for superhero movies. I think Feige himself even says before they start an MCU movie, they get the whole production team to sit down and watch the original Christopher Reeve Superman.
That's why humor plays such a huge role in the MCU movies.
Yeah, like according to him, he says this is the blueprint to making a great superhero movie. Yeah. So it's not that movie's not great.
Yes, yeah.
I do think that the Man of Steel variant is drawing more from the source material, that it's not in the popular, it's not out there like what you said.
Yes,
people's perception of him is just that movie, I think.
Yeah. So then, obviously, we all like Man of Steel. We're obviously not here to bash it. We actually quite like the movie. So what is it about the movie that you like, other than the fact that I think we've all said that before this movie we didn't like Superman and it made us like Superman, which is props in itself, really. If a movie can turn around, change your mind on a character that you previously have written off or you just totally dislike, that's props in itself. But what else about the movie worked for you, Eric?
The opening cinematic. The opening cinematic is nearly on the same lines to me as like the opening cinematic to Star Wars: A New Hope, or even Revenge of the Sith, and even the likes of The Fellowship of the Ring.
Wow.
Big, epic cinematic moment. And like with the likes of Lord of the Rings, you can tell by looking at these particular characters, and even though you have Galadriel talking, you almost don't need Galadriel to tell you the story. The visuals are telling you the story. The armor is telling you the story. These particular characters are telling. And there's so much rich culture. And I'm a fucking sucker for lore. All right. So looking at the design of the outfits and the sets that they build and stuff, and when you watch the special features, the work that, like, the Kryptonian language they invented to inscribe onto the freaking archways and onto the armor and stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
Like, really good detail to show the passion that they put into it. They invented a fucking martial art for these people, which you see very briefly at the start and stuff. So it's such a good sequence, and it sets up the villain of Zod, who's fucking brilliant. And it was, again, I think Zod was a character that it was a villain you wouldn't often see in superhero films, which is where you can the motivation makes sense. He's not a villain for villain's sake.
Right.
There's a motivation. There's a slight humanity to it, even though what he's going to do is horrific.
Yep.
So they do balance it by like having it that okay, his reason makes sense, but what he's planning on doing doesn't because it's just so destructive and wiping out. So I think that is really like cool and establishing this new version of Superman and Krypton that we don't usually that we wouldn't have really seen or grown up with.
Yeah.
And everything. This much more brutal one. And again, I think something that Zack Snyder tends to do is his stories, I think, are kind of slightly more timeless than other people's stories. The idea of the fact that the Kryptonians have drained from the source of the sun, isn't it? That they fuel their planet with
I was never fully sure
what
it was that they'd done, but they'd fucked up their planet.
They fucked up their planet, which mirrors us.
Right.
I think
right. That we actually have
I think
done
the destruction of Krypton in the Man of Steel thing is to do with the mine they mined for the kind of metals that they're using. You know, the way that it's like it's able to transform and and the scout ships and all are made of that. I think they've mined that from the planet, and that's why planet's fucking up. Something like that.
Yeah, and it's just great. Then the desperation of the Civil War and the whole fucking thing was like so fantastically sci-fi that it was such a new take that it is a superhero film, but at the same time I'd almost counter more as just like a comic book movie because it's not your such basic superhero film that we would often get. You know what I mean? Just the whole so good.
You know that inscription, the Kryptonian language that they made.
Yeah.
Do you know what it says?
No.
I don't actually. What does it say?
I think it's I'll bring it up. It's a Joseph Campbell quote. A second now.
That's crazy. The Kryptonian.
I'm pretty sure they have it there.
No,
I know it's definitely in BVS. It's actually they've incorporated the language into the S on his suit.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And the quote is, "And where we had thought to find an abomination, we shall find a god. Where we had thought to slay another, we shall slay ourselves. Where we had thought to travel outward, we shall come to the center of our own existence. Where we had thought to be alone, we shall be with all the world."
Wow.
Yeah.
Some deep shit in it. So Adam, now that we're on you, actually, what is it about Man of Steel that you like?
That opening sequence for me as well. It's like I badly want a DC movie. I want to get Michael Shannon and Russell Crowe back to make an entire movie about Krypton.
Wow.
That and like the amount of shit that went into just the opening to that, and I would agree, Eric, it's a lot like the Fellowship's prologue. I hold it up to that standard. The thing I like about the prologue to the Fellowship is that we know that, well, at the time I didn't know, but there was 3 movies being made at that time. That prologue says, you know, it's a slow start, but this is basically a taster of what's ahead. You know, the kind of the battle and stuff like that, as well as it gives you a good sense of the greater world of it, the history of it all. It introduces you to key characters that are going to prop up later on in the story as well. And I think that the opening to Man of Steel does the same thing. We were discussing before about visual effects in Black Panther, how you know, obviously due to time restraints and stuff like that, but a film that came, when did that come out? 2018, 2017, 2018? Black Panther.
Oh, Black Panther? 2018, was it? Early 2018, just before Infinity War? Is that right?
Can't remember.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think it is.
Somewhere around then. Like, look at those visual effects, and then look at the visual effects in a movie that came out in 2013. Like, there are some effects in Man of Steel that are a bit like, okay.
They've aged a bit, yeah.
But for its time, like, holy shit. Like, that opening sequence, I think, for Krypton is just wow. Just a wow. And the performances as well. And one of my favorite shots in the entire film is actually in the beginning, when Jor-El is like heading towards the council to explain to them, look, we're all gonna fucking die here if we don't act on this. When he's walking up to them, he's like coming through that, like, you're following the frame of it looks like that, like it's like this the hallway is like this hole essentially that you're going through,
Yeah.
and you can see all of them. The council members are all sitting in a circle, and behind them is like this big beams of a throne behind each of them, right? And that's like he's now walking towards what would be the fate of Krypton, which is these council members deciding their fate.
Yeah.
The end of that Krypton sequence is Lara walking, and it's like this tunnel shaped like this, and she's walking towards, and outside you're seeing these beams of fire, these columns perfectly mirroring what would be the fate of Krypton. So, like, just setting up shit like that is like that's how a comic book would be framed.
Yeah, like artistic paneling.
Yeah, like every single frame of this movie is a comic book, and yeah, that's what has me kind of like all in on this film. So from the beginning, I was like, yeah, you can pretty much show me anything now. I'm gonna fucking love this.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is like such a good sequence.
I'm with you, like the amount of detail that's put into like the costumes and everything and the culture. The actors are great. I mean, Terrence Stamp is such an iconic General Zod, right?
Yeah.
To a point where it's like, can you top that? I mean, that kneel before Zod is just so ingrained in pop culture that it's like, I mean, sure, you can do other takes on it, but can you beat that? Like, even if I don't like the early Superman movies, I always remembered General Zod. He was a character that stuck with me. Like, I preferred him to Lex Luthor for sure. Michael Shannon gives such a good version of General Zod to the point where it's just like, yeah, it's on an equal playing field now. You've got two fantastic versions of Zod that exist in cinematic history now. You know, like, I think Michael Shannon is incredible. And people can argue back and forth, rightly so, as to who has the better superheroes, you know, DC or Marvel. You can, rightfully so, you can argue both sides of that.
Yeah.
But DC have the better villains, hands down, and it always shows. Like,
at least in the cinematic,
no.
You don't think so? You think in comics as well?
I think in the comics as well. DC have the better villains. I mean, part of that is because
know.
of Batman's Rogues Gallery alone.
Sure.
That's hard to beat, you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, okay, Marvel have great villains as well. I'm not saying they don't.
Yeah.
I just think DC do have the better villains, and they've been explored in more interesting ways, by the writers. I don't know why DC seem to attract certain writers for some reason, and attract certain storylines that I've read some Marvel too. Like, I'm not like total. I don't write off Marvel. Like, I love Marvel, but there's just DC tend to go darker for some reason. People have said that more and more recently as well.
Yeah. No, I agree with it too, and I think it's because like with Marvel, and I don't think like it's hard not to compare the two, but I do think it's kind of unfair. It's almost like Star Wars and Star Trek. It's like just because it has star in the fucking name.
Leave them alone.
Yeah, like the thing is with the Marvel heroes, I think people need to realize is that in most cases, not all, but most cases, they're an average dude trying to do his best.
Right.
That's the Marvel hero. So it's like a normal guy given godlike powers, and what the fuck do I do with it? Right, and trying to do his best to save people or even save himself. DC generally is a god all of a sudden who has to learn how to be a man in many ways, right? Whether it's like obviously not Batman in that case, but Superman, Aquaman, Wonder
Woman. Yep.
They're gods who have to try and pretend to be people as opposed to people trying to be gods.
Right.
Which would be Marvel's way. So they're both fantastic, but they're both different problems. You can't align the same stories, and I think Man of Steel perfectly sums up that whole thing. It's like, you are a god, you are now sent to Earth. What do you do with that?
Well,
torn between two identities as well. Like, you know, you think that people would fucking love that shit, like having the whole like, I don't know who I am, I'm trying to find myself kind of story.
Yeah, well, what you've touched on is my favorite thing about Man of Steel, which is something that I never thought of, and the reason I wrote Superman off, but that they directly address in this, is that if you were someone that had these abilities, And they have loads of conversations in the trip, particularly between, the scenes with young Clark Kent and then Jonathan Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, what would you do with them, and should you use them? Should you help people? How will people react if you do? What kind of an effect will you have on people if you do something? There's a great scene in it, where Zod has threatened the planet. Where like, if Kal-El does not come forward, I'm going to invade this world, right? Yeah. Which, first of all, was like great because it's like, oh wow, this is like one of those Christopher Nolan villains. This is great. But Clark then goes to a priest and walks in. I love that scene. He's in a church and he goes to this priest to kind of seek a bit of advice or something, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the priest gulps as he's looking at him. And like, he already knows. He's at a point now where he's like, okay, my faith is already being kind of shaken in this moment, because there's a being here that does not fit in with what my understanding of the universe was, or what my understanding of reality was. There's this being here now. I am now encountering an alien that looks like me, that doesn't fit in with my narrative. But I'm going to give him the same advice that I would give anyone else. And I'm going to kind of keep the faith. I just think it's such a fucking cool scene. That Superman, who kind of probably, I don't know, he was raised by, you'd imagine Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent probably come from a Catholic background, right? So it would appear that he has Christian morals, but not Christian beliefs, if that makes sense.
Maybe,
just based on his upbringing, based on the fact of the fact that he was raised in Kansas. And there's great Superman stories of, if he was raised somewhere else, what kind of a person would he be? Yeah. Right? There's great stories like that out there. But it's just so interesting to me that in that scene and in that sequence, he goes in to talk to a priest, and he talks about how, I don't trust Zod, but I'm not sure I can trust humanity either. And the priest saying, sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith, and the trust will come later. I just think that's a fucking great sequence. And that's what makes him then put on the suit and make him go public to everyone. I'm Superman.
Yeah.
I think it's those kind of bigger questions that are asked within it, as well as all the flashy, awesome fucking action, like, and the music and all that. And plus the casting. The cast is great.
I can't fault a single actor in it. I think all the performances are really, really good. Like, whether or not it's like, when we have ideas of like, oh, that person should play this because they look like the person, like, maybe not for every character. They might not look like what you imagined, but I think they just do such a great job with that version that's written for the movie.
Yes. And actually, that in itself is interesting, because I at this point had no idea Man of Steel was going to be the first movie in what is being called the DCEU, right? Which is still figuring itself out as we talk. And now, Man of Steel might become more counted as part of Zack Snyder's continuity than it will ever be the DCEU continuity, right? Yeah. But at the time, it was just this standalone movie, and the only hint of it being part of a larger universe was a very small, tiny sequence where, if you look very closely, you'll see a Wayne symbol on a satellite, and you'll go, "Oh!" Right?
There's a lot more than that, man.
Is there?
Oh yeah.
What else is in it? Oh, sorry, Carl Ferris is in it.
Carl Ferris? Oh, the scientist dude?
No.
Carl Ferris. Major Carl Ferris. Well, she's major in BVS, but she's part of the Green Lantern.
Oh yeah.
Universe. She's Green Lantern's girlfriend, right?
Yeah. No, the there's a couple of buildings in the end in Metropolis that have all these different like logos and stuff on it as well.
Well, yeah.
I'm not ultimately that familiar with the lores and stuff like that.
Lex Luthor.
There's a LexCorp one, but there's another one.
That's Superman.
There's a casino one.
Right.
I can't remember the name of the guy. Oh, you mean like as in hinting at other characters coming?
Yeah, I don't mean like I kind of knew this was setting up a Superman. Like, as far as I was concerned, it was like, well, this is going to be the Dark Knight trilogy equivalent of Superman. It's a little bit darker. It's a little bit more serious. It's bringing it into the modern world. But that Wayne satellite thing, and you see that very quickly, that's the Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man thing, where it's like, this could be a standalone movie. but it might also, we're saying that these possibly exist in the same universe. So, let's explore that further. And then of course the sequel was announced. You were like, oh shit, where are you going? So but yeah, so just as a standalone Superman movie, it's my favorite one, and I know there's plenty of people out there who, realistically do prefer the Christopher Reeves one. And then I think there's a lot of people out there who are just trying to be a bit purist and just want to say that they prefer the Christopher Reeve one.
Because I grew up
actually watched it.
Yeah, I grew up with the I watched the Christopher Reeve one as a kid, but even as a kid I was a bit like, yeah, it's okay. It's fine. Yeah. Like it's okay. But it wasn't like when you watched Tim Burton's Batman as a kid.
No,
where you're like, that's fucking amazing.
I want to be that guy.
I think, there's definitely rose-tinted glasses a bit with the original Superman movies. I think if you went back and watched them, it'd be like, oh,
well, what you'll realize is the writing stands up. The character interactions, like between Clark and Lois, are really good. Lois Lane's really good in the Christopher Reeve Superman from my memory. And
I'm not that mad on it.
The kind of comedic Ghostbuster-y style writing that's present in it is good. But it's not an flashy, amazing, like Superman flying, sure, at the time was great, and it was always advertised as the movie that'll make you believe a man can fly. And when people saw it, they were blown away. That doesn't look as good anymore because we've seen things where people fly and it looks better. So, I'm just being honest. Like, this just the technology has taken us further in cinema history, so.
And if we're talking about like the versions of Superman, and we're talking about the greater, wider, like product of DC. When it comes to like the Justice League cartoons, specifically Justice League Unlimited, which I think for any big DC people, like those voice actors are the definitive voices and characters for those people. You can't do the Cadmus story, which is probably one of the most famous and probably considered one of the best ones within the Justice League story. You can't do Cadmus with Christopher Reeve's Superman. It just doesn't work. But you could do it with Henry Cavill because you can see Henry Cavill is trying to be good, but he's slightly on the brink, and he is getting annoyed with people not respecting him. Like he's thrown down as he's trying to help people all the time, and everyone keeps second guessing him. And that's what the Cadmus story is all about. Is about humanity being afraid of the Justice League and like secretly cloning them and stuff so that they can make their own Americanly controlled military version of superheroes. Yeah. And like even Green Arrow says in one of the episodes that even he's afraid of the Justice League, even though he's on the Watchtower with them and stuff. It's a fucking... And Superman is on the brink. He is genuinely losing his mind at everybody, like. And he is actually getting really frustrated. And it's like, you can't...
You're right.
You can't get that with the Christopher Reeve cheesy Superman. And like, again, it's a very different Superman to how he even is. Well, even in the cartoons, that Superman, when he's getting very political and he's trying to explain to people he's not going to become evil, because I think there was like an evil Superman who invaded them or something like that. So he's very political, he's very stern, he's very straight with all the heroes and any political party members. But in front of the kids, he's still going to be all like, oh, stay at home, stay in school, kids, and, wear the mask.
Yeah.
It's a facade. So the version everyone thinks Superman is a facade that Superman puts on for the crowds, for the kids, for the mammies. And that's not actually real Superman. Yeah. So I think that's
like, in The Boys, like Homelander is like exactly what Superman would actually be if he was on planet Earth right now.
Yeah. God, I hope not. I hope it'd be more like Henry Cavill's Superman.
You just know that. Yeah, and that's the great thing about Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman is that, our world is really fucking complicated. It's really difficult, and it'd be such a burden on anyone's psyche to just go around the place smiling all the time.
Yeah.
You just can't keep that, like, with so much shit going on, people don't know whether they can trust you or not. Are you... I love that bit at the end is like, how do we know we have America's best interests? And it's like, now obviously he says, no, I do, like I'm born in America, so I do. But as someone who's not an American, I just thought that was like such a interesting thing to say, is that's not that you have the world's best interest, that you have America's best interest.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, okay, so should he not be going into like Mexico to save people from a burning building, let's say?
Which
like,
we will bring up in.
Should he not do that then? Because
yes. Yeah, and
you know, should he be actually at the border? Should he be on the wall saying, "Sorry, these are all illegal, and in America's best interest, you can't come in"?
Should they all realize that he doesn't work for them at all?
He doesn't work for America,
and that he can do whatever the fuck he wants. And then that's the fear. Actually, he can do whatever the fuck he wants, and there's nothing they can do to stop him, which is like the whole issue with the character, which is why I don't understand when people don't like the idea of people not liking Superman, because you're like, okay, you have to realize if this guy existed,
yeah,
we would not all be waving our flags going woohoo.
I think that's part of the issue, is that when they're wanting to watch a superhero, when some people are wanting to watch a superhero film, they're wanting it to just be the superhero has to overcome the challenge and becomes the hero, and we praise him, we pat him on the back.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure they wanted themselves to be critiqued, that actually they wouldn't do that. They're actually not good enough.
No, but I think what you just said there about people wanting the superhero to have a challenge, overcome the challenge, blah, blah. I think that's what we got. I think what it is, though, is that it's like, what is the challenge? If you're Superman, what is like, if you're Batman, what is the challenge? The challenge is, how do you take on crime in Gotham when crime is so relentless? When you have a criminal like the Joker, how do you stop someone like the Joker if you're not willing to kill, but you're also not willing to work within the law? Like, how do you actually, do you know what I mean? You have to ask those questions. So what is the challenge for Superman beyond some other alien god thing that you fight, right? Because if you have someone like Lex Luthor, he's not a threat to you physically. But what is the challenge of being Superman? And the challenge of being Superman is actually being Superman in the world we live in. That is the challenge.
I liked this little there was a, like, Snyder did a watch party. Where you just kind of comments while watching the movie. So I suppose it's the equivalent of just getting the director's commentary. And one of the things he was talking about was like that bit where you can see true people, and he's like, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah, right.
And he was going on about like how much restraint it must be to be someone like Clark, who has to really focus on his senses to only see an outside layer of people rather than seeing all the way through them. Like, how difficult that must be. It's like the Hulk on steroids, basically. It's like the Hulk has to worry about keeping himself calm so he doesn't go out of control. Clark has to make sure, okay, I have to concentrate on just seeing the outside of you, so I don't see in you. I also have to make sure that when I put my hand on you, I don't fucking break your collarbone. Like, how much restraint is that?
Right, all the time.
All the time.
Like, even just like the whole thing of like, if we're gonna open a door right now, like how much pressure do it? Yeah, right.
Now, of course, you could make that slapstick. You could make that funny.
You could make that funny. Of course.
But then you're laughing at the struggle of someone.
Right.
And the point of this movie is for you to empathize with the struggle of someone.
Yeah. Empathize with someone with powers that you've previously either scoffed at because you're like, oh, it's just ridiculous, it's lame, or you went, he's the best ever, nothing can hurt him. And then now you realize, oh, it can hurt him, but just not physically. Being him is a painful life.
On the mental psyche, which is actually more relatable than someone being physically hurt, because everyone
we know it's more damaging, isn't it?
It is.
When everyone going to work, like, you know what I mean? Everyone goes through that psychological day where psychological stress, and that one day where they're like, I'm so done with this stuff. Those blasted reports, my God, they keep piling up.
But then when you can't afford to be done with it, you literally can't afford to have an outburst.
No.
Like, he can't have an outburst.
Yeah, I
know. The whole point, and his dad keeps trying to tell him, it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, part of me wanted you to hit that other kid, but then what? You know, you know, like apart from the thing of like, well, first of all, fighting people is not right. You know, like, he's trying to teach him to be the bigger man, but at the same time, it's like, if you hit that kid, the difference between him hitting you and you hitting him is if he hits you, he can't hurt you. You hit him and he's dead.
But they slightly hint at that as well when he's working in the pub. He's working in the pub, and the guy kind of picks on him. He kind of tries to push him, and the guy, when he pushes Henry, he pushes himself because he can't push Superman.
Yeah, he can't.
And then he just decides, oh well, I'm gonna pour beer all over you, and then he walks out and he sees his lorry full of logs and stuff because Superman has to restrain himself from pushing him because he'd kill him.
I do like that this Superman doesn't have an issue though with like punishing people, not physically, but he has no issue with collateral damage. Like, you know, he'll destroy the U.S. drone to say stop fucking following me. He'll destroy your fucking truck to say stop being a dick. You know, so I kind of like that there is a little bit of a, because if you're human and he's been raised as a human, you are gonna be like, I'm gonna fucking get you back for that, you fucker, like.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know,
definitely.
So, but he's not going to.
And it's like, you know, I've heard criticisms about that. It's like Superman wouldn't bully like that, but yeah, I've already made that point that in like the original Superman movies, yes, he did bully people like that. But in this version, it's like, oh, he wouldn't bully people like that. He would just suck it up and go, right? And it's like, I think if you were you wouldn't aspire to be like that. You would want to stand up to a bully. You wouldn't just let a bully go.
No.
You know, that dude was harassing that woman.
Yeah.
And he stood up to it. And he did something about it.
The bit you're talking about in the diner with Christopher Reeve, when he gets the guy in the good diner, isn't it? He throws him out the window. Yeah, that's because, I actually understand what you're talking about, because one of my teachers actually used that as an example, because he was great. He used films as examples to kind of explain particular classical study stories, like.
Right.
So actually, that guy was a bully. And Superman gave up his power.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
he gave up his power so he could be with Lois, and then the guy was picking on him. So the idea was at the end he comes back and he gives the bully the comeuppance that he kind of deserved from earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So
just
it's
for
like
context.
So it's the same thing though.
But it's the same thing. It's like the thing is that like the Man of Steel version of Superman gets criticized for things that have always been.
Yes.
You know, like
we're just seeing it with greater special effects.
Yeah, or it's just not happening as often or something like that. I don't know. I don't really empathize at all with the criticisms of this movie, like in any way.
Not really.
I can empathize a little bit with the end can get a bit chaotic.
Yeah, yeah.
And I actually agree with that. If there was something that I would criticize this film for, is that it does feel like there isn't a consequence towards the end. Although there should be. The Earth is in danger. But for some reason,
of course.
that doesn't really portray well. We always need this kind of like someone to relate to as the point of consequence. Right. And obviously that, you know, works well in the opening of the next film. But for some, like, it almost needed that type of direction, I think, for the end of this movie. Not that there wouldn't be that much chaos. There absolutely would be. In the fucking animated series, there's always that amount of chaos.
Yeah,
people are going right through buildings.
It's world-ending doom, like it's you know, and there's nothing more. You can't do a Superman villain if it's not going to be of that kind of level or caliber. You know.
Yeah.
But there's only two things about the movie I actually don't like. I've said it a couple of times, and they're kind of... Well, one of them I think is just bad, and the other one is more of a personal preference thing. One of them is those zoom-in shots. I don't like them. I know that they're supposed to be a comic book panel type thing, but you know, like when like the ship is flying, for example, and he'll zoom into it mid-shot. Or even at the start. Yeah, I know. Some people love it. I hate those shots. I hate them so much. They're not for me. But that's not bad. It's just... The other one is the scene when he's taking on the terraforming world engine thing. Mm-hmm. And in the ADR, they add in all these cough sounds that don't line up with what Superman is doing on screen. And they're really loud. And it just sounds like one of those moments where if you've ever watched a movie where someone recorded it in the cinema.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's exactly what it sounds like. It just sounds like someone's just coughing in the background. And it takes you a while to realize, oh, that's affecting him. Okay, doesn't sound like it. Just sounds like someone coughed in the middle of ADR and they forgot to take it out. It sounds really bad. Like it's actually that particular part is the bit where I go, that's genuinely the worst part of this movie. Because
interesting. I've never even noticed that.
Have you not?
No, I've
noticed him coughing, but I've never noticed it
being so bad.
It never took me out.
I never noticed it. Chris pointed out to me. Now I can't unnotice it. And it's fucking annoying.
Next time you watch it, you're going to be like, fuck me, that is bad.
Yeah. I'll admit, now, because we usually have to say this, and it's been a while since I said it, I have cried in this film.
Is it? Can I be your son? Or can I continue? Can I pretend to be your son?
You
Did you cry at that
Mike.
moment?
Is it Kevin
No.
Costner saying, "You are my son"?
No, because that is some moment, man.
That's a
That
brilliant
is
moment.
that's a moment.
That's a moment right there. What is it then?
What made you cry?
It's the bit when, and everyone critiques it, and I suppose, yes, there's a slight level of justification to why people would critique it, but also there isn't, because you can argue again. The bit when his father dies.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
obviously
he
people
could have
critique it.
saved them.
Yeah, people critique because he could have saved him, but obviously he wasn't going to save it because your man Kevin Costner puts up his hand and he's essentially telling him, no, just let this happen because because his dad believed in the world that if they found out they would hate him. And
Yeah.
We
The world's
see
not
that.
ready for him.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the bit that for me that gets me is that in the car he's arguing with him. And he tells him, like, that
It's
whole,
you're not my real dad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Right.
He delivers it slightly better than that.
Yeah.
And it's the fact.
No, of course he does.
Well, he's an actor.
No, but I mean, is that cliche of a line, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
my real dad. Go up and close the door, like, the way he says it and everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's the fact that he will never then get the chance to be able to say.
He's about to. He goes, Dad, listen, and then he goes, whoa, hold on, because then the thing happens. So he's about to say, I'm sorry, I don't mean it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get to. Yeah, it's a really good scene.
Yeah,
really strong. It's a bit cheesy. That sequence is cheesy as fuck.
Oh yeah.
With the tornado and stuff, and him just going, no, because really you would freak the fuck out, and you'd be like, save me. But in terms of just telling a story and what the story needs, it's very strong, I think. Just before we finish up, then there's talks at the moment of making more Superman movies, but Henry Cavill not coming back, or maybe he will. Would you like to see Henry Cavill continue to role Superman, or would you be like, no, I don't mind, I'd be up for seeing another one? I've kind of seen Henry Cavill's take, and I don't mind another take.
Well, they've been fucking, like, people have been asking for Man of Steel 2 for the last fucking 10 years. I wouldn't mind. I saw a post on Facebook where it was like, because it was around the time when they were like saying that they were going to get other actors to play Henry Cavill, even thinking of getting an African American actor to play Henry, like, to play Superman. And there was one post where it was like, here's a list of 5 actors who could replace Henry Cavill, and it was just 5 pictures of Henry Cavill.
Right.
I would like to see him against the likes. Well, I mean, we are going to get him against against Darkseid, but I would like to see him against Brainiac and against actual Lex Luthor and stuff. Like, I would like him to at least get his trilogy, and then we could say, okay, bye and bring on the next guy.
Yeah.
But because I think
it's way too soon, isn't it?
Well, it's not that it's way too soon. It's that he hasn't gotten his fucking.
I agree.
Pushing him off.
I would like as much as I'm really excited for the Justice League, and again I don't like the DC Marvel comparisons, but I think Marvel were right, and I think they rushed this, and I think it would have been nice to get a couple more standalone movies before bringing the whole band together, so that Darkseid feels like an earned villain that you've kind of led up to him a bit. Not like, don't copy what Marvel did, like, you don't have to fucking tease Darkseid in the end credits of the first Justice League or any shit like that, but I would have liked to have seen more of Henry Cavill's Superman in sort of his own trilogy. I would love to see Brainiac in a Man of Steel 2. That's what I would love. I would love to see that. But if they are going to reboot it and give us a new take on Superman, fair enough. I wouldn't want them to cast Henry Cavill to not play his Superman. So that's what I don't want. Like, if they think the criticisms are that Superman's too dark and we want a cheery, more hopeful Superman, so Henry, we're going to keep you, but we want you to play him totally different, then I want a different Superman. But
I think they should just go back to the original plan.
Yeah, stick to it.
The original plan being that it wasn't supposed to be a DCU at all.
Yeah, I know.
To just have separate films each time. That way, you know, Christian Bale's Batman exists along with the Matt Reeves Batman, along with fucking the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, along with the, you know, these all exist as separate stories, just like the comics do.
Yeah.
That there is a kind of a continuity, and the continuity would be that the heart of the characters carry through.
Yeah, yeah.
But that there's different stories and different depictions of them. In that case, if they were to do that, I would be totally fine with any iteration of Superman that they want to bring around. But don't create a fucking cinematic universe with a new Superman. It's like don't do that.
No.
I think
bad idea.
I think they've kind of failed at doing the cinematic universe.
I think so. I mean, the most exciting DC project coming up is the Batman, and it's not part of the DCEU.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, that's way more exciting than Aquaman 2 or The Flash or or Black Adam.
Well, I'm interested
Way
in
more
The Flash because they have Ben Affleck and Kevin.
No, I
Conroy in
know.
it,
I'm
but
not saying
so-
I'm not interested in it. I'm just saying the most interesting project that they've teased so far is something that's a standalone franchise.
And I actually think that in the long run, like that original plan where it's like, you know, with Zack's vision was supposed to be just the 5 films and not part of a bigger thing, just 5 films.
Yeah.
That has more longevity than a cinematic universe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because when you think about now, like, okay, can they make another Iron Man? Can they? But they can continue to make Batman as long as they want, as long as they, you know, they can do multiple different stories with different iterations.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long time before they can reboot Iron Man.
Yes, there's the cinematic universe has like a certain lifespan to it, and then at some point you kind of have to say, okay, that's it now, folks. That was a good run, but we have to, like, I'm sure that, like, obviously they're making boatload of money, but
in
terms of, like, you know, just keep making movies and stuff, and I think there's more longevity out of, you know, we've had now 3 different cinematic versions of Batman.
Yep.
If you continue like the original anthology, I know it's different actors, but it's supposed to be the same character. And now we're about to have a 4th one.
Can't wait. But now I'd love to hear what other people think. So, if you watch this YouTube, guys, jump down into the comments. Let us know what your take on Man of Steel was in general, and would you like to see Henry Cavill come back as Superman, either in a cinematic universe or just in a Man of Steel follow-up or a sequel? Let us know. If you're listening to us on audio platforms, you can touch base with us on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take. Let us know your take on Man of Steel. We'd also appreciate if you watch this YouTube to give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit subscribe and click that notification bell so you know when we put out next bonuses. We will be doing one on BVS. I don't know. I mean, this went longer than I thought it was going to, and I think that could go longer again. It's
Absolutely.
a longer movie.
It would be an ultimate
There's a
cut
lot to talk about. So it might be an ultimate cut of a bonus take. But so make sure you click the notification bell so you know when that goes up. And of course, we will eventually then talk about the Snyder cut of Justice League after we've seen it before the end of this month. So thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.